Are you ready, Rampy? High five. Hey, everyone. Welcome again to Reading with Queen Bee. And I am here with my dog, Rampy, the best dog in the whole entire world. Well, I think that's what all pet owners say about their cats and dogs and turtles and snakes and lions and tigers and bears. So thank you so much for joining me on another video. We are now reading, or I'm going to be reading chapter 7 of Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. And I'm so excited to finally know that Opal has a friend. Her name is Miss Franny Block, and she's a librarian. And because of Winn-Dixie, she actually made that friend. Because Winn-Dixie, well, he was confused or mistaken for a bear in the beginning of chapter 6. Miss Franny thought that he was a bear. In chapter 7, we're going to be listening to Miss Franny Block tell Opal the story of the bear. So let's get to our reading. And to all my students, don't forget, keep Googling on your Google Classroom. Keep writing, and I am enjoying reading all your comments and your responses to the chapter readings of Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. So let's begin. Chapter 7. Back when Florida was wild, when it consisted of nothing but palmetto trees and mosquitoes so big they can fly away with you, Miss Franny Block started in. And I was just a little girl no bigger than you. My father, Herman W. Block, told me that I could have anything I wanted for my birthday. Anything at all. Miss Franny looked around the library. She leaned in close to me. I don't want to appear prideful, she said, but my daddy was a very rich man. A very rich man. She nodded and then leaned back and said, and I was a little girl who loved to read. So I told them, I said, Daddy, I would most certainly love to have a library for my birthday. A small little library would be wonderful. So imagine that she had pretty much that wish, that desire to have a library since she was a little girl. And let's see what happens. You asked for a whole library? A small one, Miss Franny nodded. I wanted a little house full of nothing but books, and I wanted to share them too. And I got my wish. My father built me this house, the very one we are sitting in now. And at a very young age, I became a librarian. Yes, ma'am. What about the bear? I said. Did I mention that Florida was wild in those days? Miss Franny Block said. So, what Miss Franny Block means by wild in those days was that there was not a lot of buildings back then. It was more plantation, more trees. Uh huh, you did. It was wild. There were wild men and wild women and wild animals. Like bears? Yes, ma'am, that's right. Now I have to tell you, I was a little Miss Know-It-All. I was a Miss Smarty Pants with my library full of books. So you already know Miss Know-It-All and Miss Smarty Pants. So it's just she's describing herself that she just thought she knew it all. Oh, yes, ma'am. I thought I knew the answers to everything. Well, one hot Thursday, I was sitting in my library with all the doors and windows open and my nose stuck in a book when a shadow crossed the desk. And without looking up, yes, ma'am, without even looking up, I said, Is there a book I can help you find? Well, there was no answer, and I thought it might have been a wild man or a wild woman, scared of all these books and afraid to speak up. But then I became aware of a very peculiar smell, a very strong smell. So peculiar just means strange. She's never smelt that smell before, that scent before. I raised my eyes slowly, and standing right in front of me was a bear. Yes, ma'am, a very large bear. So you can just visualize that, and I'll do a little reenactment. She's reading her book, and so that's a little reenactment of how Miss Franny Block probably looked. How big? I asked. Oh, well, said Miss Franny, perhaps 3 times the size of your dog. Then what happened? I asked her. Well, said Miss Franny, I looked at him and he looked at me. He put his big nose up in the air and sniffed as if he was trying to decide if a little Miss Know-It-all librarian was what he was in the mood to eat. And I sat there. And then I thought, well, if this bear intends to eat me, I am not going to let it happen without a fight. No, ma'am. So very slowly and very carefully, I raised up the book I was reading. What book was that? I asked. Why, it was War and Peace, a very large book. I raised it up slowly and then I aimed it carefully and I threw it right at that bear and screamed, "Be gone!" And do you know what? No, ma'am, I said. He went, but this is what I will never forget. He took the book with him. Nuh-uh, I said. Yes, ma'am, said Miss Franny. He snatched it up and ran. Did he come back? I asked. No, I never saw him again. Well, the men in town used to tease me about it. They used to say, Miss Franny, we saw that bear of yours out in the woods today. He was reading that book and he said it sure was good and would it be all right if he kept it for just another week? Yes, ma'am. They did tease me about it. She sighed. I imagine I'm the only one left from those days. I imagine I'm the only one that even recalls that bear. All of my friends, everyone I knew when I was young, they are all dead and gone. So here's Miss Franny Block, also lonely. She has no friends. She sighed again. So she keeps sighing, like, remembering. She looked sad and old and wrinkled. It was the same way I felt sometimes, being friendless in a new town and not having a mama to comfort me. I sighed too. When Dixie raised his head off his paws and looked back and forth between me and Miss Franny, he sat up then and showed Miss Franny his teeth. And there goes that smiling gesture of Winn-Dixie. And you already know I've been trying to teach Rampy to smile, but he won't smile. Huh, Ramps? Well, now, look at that, she said. That dog is smiling at me. It's a talent of his, I told her. It is a fine talent, Miss Franny said. A very fine talent. And she smiled back at Winn-Dixie. We could be friends, I said to Miss Franny. I mean, you and me and Winn-Dixie, we could all be friends. Miss Franny smiled even bigger. Why, that would be grand, she said. Just grand. And right at that minute, right when the three of us had decided to be friends, who should come marching into the Herman W. Block Memorial Library but old pinch-faced Amanda Wilkinson. So if you have ever seen someone walk with a pinch face, they pretty much don't care about you. They're just they sort of say that they look like they like a sour lemon. So just visualize Amanda Wilkinson walking in with her pinch face. She walked right up to Miss Franny's desk and said, I finished Johnny Tremaine and I enjoyed it very much. I would like something even more difficult to read now because I am an advanced reader. So here's Amanda Wilkinson, and she has some similarities of when Miss Franny Block was a little girl. You know, the little Miss Know-It-all. So Miss Franny Block, let's see what she tells her. Yes, dear, I know, said Miss Franny. She got up out of her chair. Amanda pretended like I wasn't there. She started right past me. Are dogs allowed in the library? She asked Miss Franny as they walked away. Certain ones, said Miss Franny, a select few, and then she turned around and winked at me. I smiled back. I had just made my first friend in Naomi, and nobody was going to mess that up for me, not even old pinch-faced Amanda Wilkinson. And that's the end of chapter 7. And one thing that I am enjoying is all the different adventures Winn-Dixie and Opal are having. And so far, Miss Rani Block seems to be a very nice lady. She's no longer a little Miss Smarty Pants. I think she learned her lesson with the bear incident. But the question for today for your Google Classroom is Amanda Wilkinson, this pinch-faced little girl. Do you think that she will be Opal's friend? Think about it, respond, go to your Google Classroom, do a self-talk or a dinner talk. What do you think? I don't know. We'll see. Rampy, what do you think? And you guys already know to keep buzzing about books, keep reading with Queen Bee. Bye.